Hey guys, I'm the Tech Chap, and this is the new Insta360 Go 3S. It's in its action pod right now with this lovely flip out screen, and of course its party trick is you can pull it out and then have this little camera, which now shoots in 4K. So this is the Go 3S. These are some of the very handy accessories that go with it, and this is my friend James's dog Neo having the absolute best time. So over the past couple of weeks, me and my buddy James have been testing the Go 3S, and it's been so much fun. This thing genuinely makes me think, oh, how can I make this shot more interesting or get more creative angles? Because there's just simply nothing else quite like this. So it is a very similar setup to last year's Go 3. This is kind of a bit of a refinement. It's not like a full Go 4, it's the 3S. It's like a refreshed version. And of course, the first thing you'll notice is it now comes in black, which looks very smart, but also has a practical benefit of being less reflective. You don't really see many professional cameras being anything other than black. And the other benefit is it's a lot more subtle. If I try to avoid my microphone here, I've got my magnetic pendant, pop that on there. A lot less obvious. Although for privacy concerns, obviously we've still got the LED notification light, which will blink red when it's recording. So like last year's Go 3, we're getting the same tiny camera that's basically the size of your thumb, which you can use by itself, or pop into this action pod with its flip-out screen, bigger battery, and extra mounting options. And as I say, while this isn't a full-blown Go 4, it does have some tasty upgrades, with the headline really being the ability to shoot in 4K, up from 2.7K. And we get a new wide-angle lens, but it is using the same sensor as before, and it still tops out at 30 FPS at the highest resolution. But that high resolution means you are going to get sharper, more detailed video, particularly in good lighting. We also have a new chip that gives us 50% more processing power, which also helps everything feel a bit quicker and more responsive. They've upgraded the battery in the action pods, and you'll get just under 40 minutes from the camera alone, or around 140 minutes from the camera in the action pod. Although shooting at the new 4K 30 will lower this to around 32 minutes and 122 minutes respectively. And I think one of the more underrated upgrades is they've made these magnets a whole lot stronger. You actually really have to yank it out. And especially if you're going to pop this onto a metal surface, because obviously this is magnetic. So let's do a little live test here. I mean, you could do that before, but it feels a lot more secure now. Isn't that cool? And finally, if you happen to lose it, which given how small this is, and the fact that it's kind of encouraged to use it in more interesting and unique places, the Go 3S now supports Apple Find My. Also helpful for tracking down your pets if you've got the camera attached, although I wasn't having too much trouble finding Sylvie. So altogether, some nice quality of life upgrades. And of course, we still have all the features from last year's Go 3 that made it this properly epic little camera, including being waterproof up to 33 feet or 10 meters. We have their magnetic mounting system, and in the box you have the magnet pendant, which you just pop around your neck, you can adjust the length, and then have a nice chest level POV shot. Then there's the easy clip for, well, as it says on the tin, clipping probably your hat or your helmet, although I do still find this a little bit fiddly to use. And then we have the pivot stand, which actually has also been refined and now works better on curved surfaces. Stick it wherever you want, and the ball head lets you change the angle and the orientation. Speaking of orientation, the Go 3S will now detect whether you're holding it horizontally or vertically, and then shoot in that aspect ratio. 16:9 for YouTube, for example, 9:16 for your TikToks and your Instagram. You do also have the freeform video mode, which records in 4:3, so more of a squarish aspect ratio for using your shots both vertically and horizontally. But you can just plonk it onto anything metal or place it in the most random spots, and then either use the Insta360 app on your phone or the Action Pod's touchscreen for a live preview and to remote control it, which I found works smoothly up to about 5 meters away, although it will depend on your environment. I'm also dead impressed by how smooth the footage is. I mean, just look how bumpy this road is as my buddy James here is cycling over it, and this is with the flow state stabilization set to high and with horizon lock turned on. What's interesting though is that Insta360 aren't really calling this an action camera. They're marketing it as the world's smallest 4K vlogging camera. Which I guess makes sense because we have the Insta360 Ace and Ace Pro if you want a proper dedicated action camera with more shooting options, as this Go 3S tops out at 4K 30, and also if you want swappable batteries, micro SD cards, bigger screens, and just generally more pro features. And if you are weighing up which makes more sense for you, I actually made a video on the Ace Pro a couple of months back, so have a watch of that at the end of this video. So on the camera itself, in the Action Pod, we have this 2.2-inch flip touchscreen, which can tilt 180 degrees so you can frame yourself. Still fairly chunky bezels around it. I wouldn't have said no to a slightly bigger screen, but it is still very useful to have. We have a single USB-C port with the camera unlock latch buttony thing above it. We have a built-in microphone on the camera itself, which actually does a pretty decent job. The magnetic mounting system on the bottom, just 3 buttons on the Action Pod. We got the power and then a Q button for basically quickly switching between modes. And then we have the record on the top. And both the camera and the pod have this quite nice, soft, almost rubbery texture. We also have an LED light on the back of the Action Pod and on the front of the camera itself, which will flash red when recording. I've just realized there's another creator guy over there. I actually don't know his name, but he's filming his video on the Insta360 as well. That's fun. You've also got haptic vibrations, which you can even feel through the pendant, and an audible beep when it starts and stops recording. The only time I've accidentally stopped recording is when I waved at it and realized the gestures were on. Oh, and another tip, use a lens protector, because it saved the day for me. I was using it on a tripod and the wind tipped it over and shattered the protector. Stay safe, boys and girls. Use protection. So on screen, at the bottom left, you have your different modes, video and free frame, then you've got time-lapse for static shots and time shift if you're moving, then there's slow motion, which now shoots at 100 FPS at 2.7K. And I'm also shooting this with the interval mode, so it'll repeat every 3 minutes, so you don't end up with like a super long clip, which can be difficult to work with. You can change the duration, and it's just much easier to sort of take the little clips that you want. So interval is very useful for vlogging like this. And it takes a surprisingly decent photo. Although mostly I use this for video, and you have 3 resolution options, with 4K topping out to 30 FPS, or 50 if you drop the res down to 2.7. But I've stuck with 4K 30 for most of my shots as I want the best quality, although this will drain your battery a bit quicker. I was worried it actually might overheat a bit and stop recording, but I had this running for over half an hour, just static at room temperature, and there were no issues at all. You also have 4 different fields of view, with a couple of extra options if you're shooting in free frame, although most of the time I use D-Warp as it's a nice wide angle with only a little bit of distortion. Oh, and definitely turn on pre-recording, which will continually capture 10 to 30 seconds even before you press record, so you don't miss a good shot. And also in the full settings menu, make sure your video bitrate is set to high. And also you can see here the Go 3S has 128 gigs of built-in storage. Although the base model, which is $30 cheaper, comes with half the storage, 64 gigs. Now, when you want to get your footage off the camera, you can either wirelessly transfer it via the Insta360 app, or plug in a USB-C cable between the Action Pod and your laptop, or, with this handy accessory, just pop the camera onto this magnetic mount, which you can then just plug straight into your phone or laptop and transfer without needing to use the app or any cables. Speaking of the app, once you've imported your footage, you can change the field of view, the aspect ratio, you can use the built-in editor to cut down your clips, or specifically on mobile, you can use one of these fancy AI filters. Pro tip though, make sure you export in the highest resolution and highest bitrate for the best quality, although I have found the mobile app does still compress your clips, and if you want the highest possible quality, then use the Insta360 Studio app on your laptop instead. So, how much? Well, the base 64 gig version of the camera with the Action Pod will cost you a penny under $400. And it's 30 more if you want to double the storage, which I probably would given you can't expand it. The camera by itself is $239.99 for the base model, and the Action Pod by itself is $149.99. It's also great to see that the new Go 3S camera is compatible with last year's Go 3 Action Pod. So if you already have a Go 3 and want to upgrade without buying the new Action Pod, you can buy the 3S as a standalone camera. So that's the new Go 3S from Insta360. It's not a night and day upgrade over the Go 3 from last year, but there are some nice improvements. 4K resolution, longer battery life, this new black color, stronger magnets, a couple of extra features. One of the most fun and just versatile little cameras you can buy. If you fancy checking it out for yourself, I'll leave a link in the description below, and the first 50 people to order it through my link will get a free gift. Not too shabby. Let me know what you make of the Go 3S, and if you've got any questions, drop a comment below. Big thank you to James and Neo for helping me out with this video, and I'll see you next time right here on The Tech Chap.